All right, today President Barack Obama selling that economic stimulus plan David and I were chatting about. A new poll shows 41% of Americans ain't exactly buying it and do not think that the president's stimulus will help their families. While my next guest isn't convinced either. He's Mark Sanford. He's the Republican governor of South Carolina. Governor, we had John McCain on a minute ago saying as things stand now, this stimulus plan should just be junked. What do you make of that?
I applaud him for the stand that he's making, and I applaud a lot of other folks that made a stand similarly on the House side. And I think you're going to see a real push on the Senate side based on what they're hearing from the very American public that you just alluded to. People are genuinely worried, but they're even more worried about what may be prescribed in this stimulus plan.
All right, but you know, it's funny, depending on the poll of the news organization, go to USA Today, and when people are asked generically, do you think something big should be done? I'm probably poorly wording that, Governor. The overwhelming majority say, yeah, we need stimulus, we need something big. The devil is in the details, isn't it?
It always is. That's the nature of the political process. But I think that the first part of the big that ought to be done is do no harm. And, you know, the saying is that those who don't learn from history are destined to repeat it. And what we saw in the late 20s and the early 30s, what we saw in the meltdown in Japan in the 90s, is these kinds of big stimulus packages, in fact, not proving the intended result that they're supposedly about, and in fact freezing up the very private capital, which is the real incubator of wealth and the real driver of our economic system. Too many people are standing on the sidelines now on the private side because they have no idea what the rules are going forward based on an ever increasing string of stimulus packages. All
right, so if you had your druthers scrap this stimulus plan, I've talked to some Republicans, Governor, tell me they're afraid of looking like they're obstructionists. How do you console, comfort, advise them?
I would say, one, tell the truth to the American public, which is that there is going to be pain. Politicians seem to have perfected this notion of we're about preventing all pain. You know, it's okay if the house goes up at 25 or 30% a year, but it can't possibly go in the other direction. That is not the nature of the marketplace. And the bottom line is that debt has grown at 3 times GDP, or 3 times the growth of the economy over the last 15 years. We're going to go through a deleveraging process. It is going to be painful. And the question is, do we rip the Band-Aid off quickly, or do we stick a bunch of little Band-Aids on in the form of different stimulus packages that only exacerbate, lengthen, and deepen the pain? So I'd say the second step is sort of, 1, do no harm, but 2, tell the truth. And the third one is, if in fact you're going to have a stimulus package, make it immediate. Do something like cutting the payroll taxes that helps working people across this country, very different than what the Congressional Budget Office itself has said will happen with a stimulus package wherein about 50 cents on every dollar doesn't get spent for 2 years.
All right, Governor, thank you very, very much. Governor Mark Sanford in South Carolina.
Pleasure.
Thank you, sir.